Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which will see Deadpool and Wolverine once again take the top spot away from Alien Romulus, though Alien Romulus right now projected to have a decent second weekend number. Obviously, 61% drop according to Box Office Theory is definitely towards the higher end of drop-offs, but because this film is already doing so much better than what anyone could have expected, this film is still set and on pace to be able to make its money back and to make a little bit of profit, which ultimately means a box office success and a small box office hit. In fact, we'll be able to make some full projections on Sunday when we get the official week 2 numbers, having both those domestic and international numbers. But as of right now, the domestic numbers are looking pretty good at this point. But obviously, the big story is that Deadpool and Wolverine continues just to dominate everything when it comes to the box office. Going to be able to get to $1.2 billion, very close to $1.2 billion by the end of this weekend. And again, as I mentioned before, right now the range of where it's going to finish is going to be somewhere between 1.3 and 1.4 billion if I had to guess. And of course, we know that that means that right now it seems that as far as the number one film of 2024 is concerned at the box office, it's probably going to be at this point Inside Out 2, which again, $1.6 billion and still making money, even though we already have the film available on PVOD platforms and things like that. And so, therefore, because of those things, yeah, very, very impressive. What's not going to be very impressive, though, is The Crow. As you can see, according to Box Office Theory, The Crow right now is expected to be towards the bottom end of the charting with only $5.8 million. Yes, $5.8 million. And yeah, that's never a good thing to have your opening weekend to be in these single digits. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what Box Office Theory is saying, what Box Office Report is saying, and also what all of the others are saying as well. Before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, lap that fire button over on Odyssey, smash the button as well. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, hit that bell. That way you get notified every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So again, according to Box Office Theory, we'll go up here for a second because they do sometimes give us some of the traditional tracking. It looks like they, for some reason, are not doing it for this one. How dare you? But that's okay. Deadpool Wolverine, though, according to Box Office Theory's charting, is expected to come in the number one spot with $20 million. Yeah, pretty impressive right there. $20 million. It's been out now for about, 5-6 weeks at this point. Pretty crazy to think about. And $20 million continuing to make that much money at this point is very impressive. At 33% hold from last week is what is currently being projected, at least by Box Office Theory. Alien Romulus is expected to come in the number 2 spot, dropping around 61%. So again, a sizable drop there, but definitely not the worst that we have ever seen. MCU films have had much bigger drop-offs, we could say. So expected to make another $16.4 million, bringing its total domestic to 72.2. Probably looking at that film getting well north of $100 million domestic by the end of its run. And no matter how you spin it, that's a very good number, a very good run for a film that is, again, very divisive really at this point in time, especially when it comes to those in our own community. Again, personally, I found it to be quite entertaining. Seems that the vast majority of general audiences are enjoying it quite a bit, and obviously a lot of hardcore fans are not enjoying it, and I think that their criticisms are absolutely legitimate, but one still cannot deny the fact that the film is making some money right now at the box office and looking to break even over the next couple of weeks, if I had to guess, based off of how it is currently tracking. The film, It Ends With Us, some controversy surrounding this film as it deals with domestic violence, and is interesting in how it's been, the campaigning and the promotion for the film has ultimately been. Apparently Blake Lively is in some hot water because she's been more kind of promoting it, at least in the very beginning, as more of a rom-com type movie, right? So as more of this, more enjoyable experience, but people have then gone to see it thinking that that is what it's going to be about, and then it ends up being about some violence, and so they're like, oh, wait a minute, this is not the movie that I thought. And even though that is the case, it is still holding very well. Another $14.3 million, bringing its total to $123.7 million domestic. Again, I don't think anyone saw It Ends With Us doing this kind of money. So again, despite the fact that the marketing for it, at least being pushed by Blake Lively and parts and members of her team, probably a little bit of dubious there, still can't deny the fact that the money is there and it is rolling in for that movie. Twisters also still hanging around. Kind of amazing. Twisters is still in our discussion. 27% hold in the top 4, according to Box Office Theory at the very least. Brings total domestic $250 million. Again, remember the big problem with the film Twisters is how much it cost. So it's not going to make its money back likely when it's still in theatrical release, but it will start to make money in PVOD and things like that because, again, ultimately the film is very successful. And especially when they sell those streaming rights is when they'll probably make the most of their money back and some profit. We also have a couple of, actually 3 new movies, and all 3 are right now projected to be some of the worst performing films this next weekend. So The Forge, expected to make only $7 million. This is, I believe, another faith-based movie from Affirm Films and Sony. Kind of conjunction there as far as its distribution is concerned. Again, projected to only do about $7 million at around 1,800 screens. So again, a very limited release there. Blink Twice from Amazon. Again, interesting how we are still getting some films from Amazon in the theaters. We know that Apple, for instance, has said, okay, we're kind of done with this at this point, and we know that Amazon is probably not too far behind in that as well. But Blink Twice, a new horror film with Channing Tatum, is expected to do only about $6.7 million. Blink Twice might be the only one in this list that has the chance, the potential to do better than what's expected, only because it is in that horror thriller category, and those films can sometimes, again, not always, can sometimes do better, can punch above their weight. The issue, I think, is that I've just not seen any trailers for Blink Twice. I've not seen a lot of very good promotion for the film, and so I think ultimately that's going to lead to its downfall. But hey, word of mouth sometimes can drive films to do better than expected. That could also happen with The Forge, because we all know sometimes there are faith-based movies that can get that word of mouth amongst the Christian community and can therefore do better than expected. But as of right now, not expecting it, because also for The Forge, haven't really seen a lot of trailers for that either. And expected to do worst amongst all the films listed here, at least, is The Crow. That's right, the remake of The Crow, $5.8 million. Wow. Not looking good for The Crow whatsoever. Let's see about Box Office Report, because again, we know that there's different companies that use different metrics. So as you can see, Deadpool and Wolverine expected to still do number 1 here as well, 32% hold according to them. They do suspect one of the big differences between them and Box Office Theory is that they have Alien Romulus at $18 million, a 57% hold from week 1. And so obviously they are expecting the film to do a little bit better. So it'll be interesting to see which one of these is closer. Still would have the amount of total gross by the end of the weekend in the $70 million range. And again, my projections would still be probably going to do north of $100 million by the end of its run. It ends with us still in the number 3 spot, Twisters, Blink Twice, The Forge. And this is where you actually see something interesting, because the re-release of Coraline, which is now going into its second weekend of re-release, in fact, a 40% hold from last week. Very impressive to see that percentage-wise drop, but also means it could actually beat The Crow. That's right, a re-release of a film that came out 15 years ago. Yes, I know Coraline is being mostly shown in 3D, and that does up the ticket price a bit. It still does not take away the fact that for a film like that to be able to beat a brand new film called The Crow kind of shows you, one, why would you remake a film that no one was asking you to remake? And two, why would you think that the hardcore fans of The Crow, and I will be honest, I am not one of those fans. I personally was not a huge fan of that movie, but even I will say, yeah, you don't really mess with those cult fans, right? You don't mess with those films of cult classics like The Crow and say, hey, we're going to make this new film for a new generation, and then the marketing really poop the bed, one could say, right? It's just, yeah, not a good look. And sure enough, no one is really showing up to go and see the movie. Can't say I'm all that surprised. Let's go over to some of the mainstream sources like Tony. Good old Tony over at Deadline. Right now, he's projecting the film to have, the battle right now to be between Alien Romulus and Deadpool and Wolverine. Right now, it looks like they're going to have Alien Romulus, interestingly enough, get the victory here at $18 million, and Deadpool Wolverine get second place at $17 million. I honestly think that's going to flip. I do think Deadpool Wolverine, again, based on the fact that we have Box Office Theory and Box Office Report, both people who have been in this game for a while and are, again, looking at it very differently than a lot of these, more mainstream corporate structures do. So I would lean more towards them, but hey, you could still see it. Alien Romulus could hold better than expected, and if that happens, yeah, Alien Romulus could take the number 1 spot again, but do not be surprised to see Deadpool Wolverine take that number 1 spot once again. They do have It Ends With Us being in that top 3 picture as well. Right now, saying Blake Lively's highest grossing movie at the domestic box office, overtaking Green Lantern. not much of a success there, but again, Deadline is going to deadline in their own way. Romantic drama directed by and starring Justin Baldoni is set to do around $13 million for the weekend, and then it goes into how they think Blink Twice is going to do. Also, Zoe Kravitz directed Blink Twice, so probably a reason why I have no further interest in this movie personally. Again, Channing Tatum is in it, but hey, is what it is. Also, a trigger warning apparently from Amazon Studios, so you know that means it's going to be great. But they do have The Crow only doing single digits, and so yeah, do not be surprised if that indeed still holds. And so again, some similar numbers here, but it'll be interesting to see where all things fall in this way. And then lastly, we have Box Office Pro. Right now, Deadpool Wolverine expected to do around $15 to $20 million. So again, within this same range that we've seen, expected to do number one. But Alien Romulus is in that discussion, so they're kind of similar to Deadline in this way, where they think that's going to be more of a battle between Deadpool, Wolverine, and that of Alien Romulus. And again, it really depends on how the word of mouth goes. Right now, the word of mouth for Alien Romulus has been pretty good, whether people like the film or not. It has been getting a lot of general praise from the general audience, so that could ultimately make or break this movie's chances of a first place finish at the box office this weekend. But it's going to be very close. I think that it's going to be very close between Deadpool and between Alien at the end of this box office. What will definitely not be in the discussion, though, is The Crow. We do have some early reviews over on this is the actual legitimate Crow. There we go. This is the new The Crow. Only 6 reviews over right now over on Criticlist, as you all know. Big fan of the Criticlist platform. Great place to go, especially to get more of a normie general audience vibe, and also some film buff people too, right? People who just love going to see movies generally aren't in this category, but they're of all different stripes. And right now, it's universally getting panned. The highest review I've seen so far is, I think, that 50% at the very top. So yeah, in a best case scenario, it's a 50% decent score according to Film Lover Quaint. You have a couple of heinous scores here, someone giving it a 0%. I always think that's a bit unfair to give a film a 0%. You got to give some points, right, for any stunt teams and any of like the technical people behind the scenes, because I'm sure they're doing a fine job or doing an okay job, right? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. We got a bogus score, another heinous score, and another heinous score here. Vex Electronica, I know she's often on the site, and so she is one that sees a lot of movies. 5% heinous score. It says here it's a reimagining of the original 1989 comic and 1994 film adaptation. Gives a little bit of the general thoughts there. So yeah, overall, not looking all that great, but hers obviously getting a lot more attention since she is, again, a lot more prominent here in the Criticlist community. And so not a good look for it with these early results for The Crow. I would not be surprised to see The Crow be in that bottom tier, getting even below the remake of Coraline, and definitely being amongst the lowest of the new releases. And so let's just jump ahead over to the chart, because we love charts here on OMB Reviews, just to give you an idea of how bad those numbers are for The Crow. So single digits right now is the projection for the domestic opening. The film cost around $50 million. That means it needs to make probably between $125 and $150 million just to be able to break even. And yeah, that's probably not going to happen. When you're opening in the single digits like that, the chance of you getting to that $100 million range, not very likely. So The Crow, probably going to be one of the biggest box office bombs of 2024. Blink Twice only costs around $20 million, a pretty moderate amount from an Amazon Studios release especially. So this film does not need to make a whole lot. $50 million right now is what the film ultimately needs to make, between $50 and $60 million by the end of its box office run. And based off of the opening weekend being projected around 6.7, and again, single digits there, it's possible for this movie, but again, because it is towards that higher end, it's still not looking all that great for Blink Twice to be able to do so. I don't have The Forge in here because The Forge is a very limited release, and it's very difficult to do proper tracking on limited releases. So, of course, it'll be mentioned in the box office breakdowns, but it will not be giving a full chart, because really not a whole lot to work with there when it comes to those independent releases. Let's see about some totals right now, though, just to give some updates. So as I mentioned before with Alien Romulus, getting some more money this weekend. Obviously, we look at this and we say it's going to get up to $75 million is the projection. So we could say overall the total box office worldwide probably will be pretty close to $200 million if I had to guess. And that would mean that it's going to be pretty close to a break-even point, actually, by the end of this weekend. It also makes $300 million much more on the table. I mentioned last weekend, right? Typically films make around 3 times their budget, 3 times their total worldwide opening, open around $100+ million. 3 times that is around $300 million. So do not be surprised. For me, I think 250 to 350 million, probably a likely endpoint for Alien Romulus, which is again a huge win for them, especially when the film does not need to make a whole lot more because of $80 million budget. Even though I wish they had spent that money a bit better on some of those deep fake effects, which are just truly atrocious. Borderlands, yeah, no one's talking about it because it's not even in the discussion. The film dropping like a rock, only at $22.2 million, a massive flop, right? We're talking $150+ million in losses, and it's going to be put on digital very, very soon. Yeah, not a good win for them. In fact, a huge loss. We have It Ends With Us, $60 million in net profit at this point in time. It can continue to add to those profits. I think we could probably see upwards of $100 million in profits by the end of its run with how it is doing right now, with how it is holding. Remember, Harold the Purple Crayon did indeed flop at the box office. Trap, again, doing to the point where profitability is still, there's that potential there, but it is dropping off quite a bit, so I don't think it's going to ultimately get there theatrically. Obviously, when you get to the point where you're only losing about $10 million, I can see this film being a -5, -10 by the end of its run. That's pretty easy to make up post-theatrically, but hey, we're looking at the theatrical numbers here, and still that would still not be enough to get that back. We see Deadpool Wolverine at $1.15 billion, so that means that $1.2 billion is definitely going to happen by the end of this weekend, and that's why I again think 1.3 to 1.4 is probably the end point for this movie as it continues to dominate that number one spot, especially at the domestic box office. Because it costs so much money, though, that is cutting into its profits, right? We talked about this before, even with films like Inside Out 2, right? $236 million in net profit. That's again very, very good. And that's enough to be able to pay for the production budget of a future film, but it's not enough to cover the marketing cost, right? And so this is, again, really the big problem. Deadpool Wolverine could have made so much more money as far as net profit is concerned had they spent a little less, and they really didn't need to spend $200 million on a film like that. But again, that's just my own personal thought. Twisters at $336 million, still $61 million in the red because of that massive $155 million plus budget. And as I said, it'll make that money back post-theatrical, but theatrically, it's a little bit too far at this point to make that back. Long Legs, again, $35 million in profits, very good there. Fly Me to the Moon, still a massive flop. Despicable Me 4, $849 million, $233 million in profit, so very good numbers there. Sorry about that. That is my alarm when I typically wake up. It's currently 6 a.m. here. Had to wake up early to get this video done before I walk the puppies, before I walk the dogs. And let me see if there's any other updates at this point. Let's go ahead and go to Inside Out 2. $1.629 billion. 1.7 is not off the table because it's still making a lot of money even after, everything that's happened with the film so far. $441 million in profits there. Again, could be so much more had they not spent as much money on that film's budget. But still, $1.6 billion, can't take that away. Going to be likely the biggest film of 2024, and it's not even over yet. We'll see what Moana 2 does. I don't think it's going to do the likes of Inside Out 2, but don't underestimate that Moana base. And really, these are the numbers as they currently stand. So what are y'all's thoughts? Have you seen The Crow, Blink Twice? Have you seen The Forge, right? Any thoughts on those movies? Do you think that The Crow is going to do better than expected? Do you think that Alien Romulus is going to do better than expected? Who thinks going to take the number one spot, Alien Romulus or Deadpool Wolverine? Personally, I think Deadpool Wolverine probably has a bit of an edge there, but Alien Romulus seems to be doing a lot better with fans or a lot better with general audience fans than most people would ultimately think. Critic list community is very clear that the film is a pretty solid score, by the way. For those wondering, right now, there's a lot of really bad reviews for the new Crow. Old Crow, right now, 26 ratings, 87%, most excellent. And again, I wouldn't even agree with that general score because I was not a huge fan of it myself. But to give you an idea of where Alien Romulus stands, because obviously there have been some updates, I believe, to the overall score. 56 votes, 72% rad, so a solid rad movie. What are y'all's thoughts about that? Let me know your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, slide that fire button over, and honestly smash the rumble button. And make sure that you continue to watch these videos, share them out as well. It does help out a lot with the channel. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed Friday, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members here during the month of August, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Modern Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Modern Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed August, and as always, God bless.